Whereabouts are you from, Shayne?
I'm from Brisbane, man, but I used to visit here more often, like back in the day.
Yeah.
And I think I lived here for about almost a year in like 2010 or 11.
Okay, cool.
So I know all the crew here pretty well.
Yeah.
Old mates with them and stuff. So yeah.
So you used to come back and forth. When did you start stand-up?
2007.
2007. Okay, cool. And do you remember the first time like seeing stand-up? Was that like online?
Yeah, like
or?
as a kid.
Yeah.
Like seeing Billy Connolly on TV.
So good.
Are we doing it? Is this happening?
We're in, dude. We just cold roll it.
All right, cool. Hell yeah.
Was it Billy Connolly like 2-night stand? Because that was the first one I remember watching.
I don't know what it was, but I remember being like shit at schoolwork and shit at sports but like pretty good at entertaining myself and others in school. And I remember seeing like, I think it was Billy Connolly's World Tour, and like I was pretty young, I was like 7 or whatever. And then I was just like, whatever that is, I want that, you know, because I think he just looks so free and immersed. And I guess it's like, you know, when you're joking around, laughing with people, you're in that flow state, you know, it's hard to like be immersed in an activity. It's like rock climbing, but you're laughing, you know what I mean? And
it's like rock climbing, but you're laughing. That's cool.
because you're focused on what's going on, you know, and you're not really like ruminating or worrying or stressing out.
Leave them at the door. Leave the worries at the door, and then crush, get off, right back to the worries.
Yeah, lose all awareness that worries exist, man.
That's awesome. I love it.
Yeah.
And so you watched Billy Connolly early on. I mean, you said it was the freedom and stuff like that inspired you. And then 2007, you get up and you do your first set. Tell me about what that was like. How did it go? And what was the circumstances around you getting up?
It was like a pub, of like the gaming room of a pub. So in Queensland, they have a lot of pokie machines in all the pubs. So that killed a lot of the live entertainment back in the day, like music and stuff. So they didn't have an incentive to get bands in. They could just have people like destroying their lives to come in. And so the government made this law, instead of cracking down on like the horrors of gambling addiction, they're like, oh, you have to pay a certain amount of money of your like the gambling proceeds for live entertainment to try and compensate with that.
Oh.
And so the comedy racket in Queensland would be coupled with a lot of pubs that didn't have anyone there. So we would sort of be in like almost like the gaming room, these open mics that were run in a pub, and you had all of these like alcoholics and like middle-aged people. So when I started, I was 18, so no idea how to relate to some divorced guy who's trying to escape his life. And you're like interrupting their vices, like their drinking and gambling with your shitty, like whatever an 18-year-old thinks is funny. And so, yeah, my first gig, I actually froze halfway through it. Like I got some laughs. I think it was like really, you know, silly biscuits jokes. I think like one of the jokes was like, does anyone here know what a swoople is? And that's someone who makes up words, right? So like really, you know.
Hold on. That's pretty meta for 18. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, but meta sucks in comedy, right? No one likes meta. And so, and then I ended up like just kind of being like full on frozen and just staring at the thing. And then I got off and I was like, fuck, I can do that better. I'm hungry. When can I do it again? And so, yeah.
So the journey starts there in the pokie rooms of Brisbane, Queensland, 2007.
Yeah.
How soon after you back up? Are you sort of trying to gig regularly from that point on? Do you take a couple of years off?
No.
When do you start to really find your feet?
Into it. Straight into it. No. Yeah. Like there was nothing else in my life. There was nothing. It was just like, when can I do that again? Every thought, thinking about comedy, writing that. There was no, I gotta, you know, what about my future? How am I gonna? There was none of that. It was just like Centrelink forever and pretending to look for jobs and then doing as much gigs as I could.
The doll and stand-up. I like it, man.
Yeah, go hand in hand.
What was an early goal you had with stand-up? Do you remember like being back in those early days of being an open micer and any early goals you set for yourself?
I don't mean to sound morally superior to others, but I am. And I didn't have any ambitions of like, oh man, I'm going to do this thing and achieve that and I'm going to be blah, blah, blah. All my goal was like, just be funny and write better jokes and enjoy it. So yeah, there was like, it was all intrinsic motivation. There was no like external, like, yeah, I'm gonna be the pimp my ride guy and have lots of fucking, you know, this was a bit before social media was that big anyway. So yeah.
It was all healthy motivations of just getting better at the craft.
Yeah.
Yeah, cool.
Which I'm grateful for.
And what did your parents think of this whole I mean, you're obviously 18 when you start off.
My parents were pretty stunted emotionally and developmentally. And so they were just like glad I wasn't in jail doing drugs. There was no like, no son of mine's not being an engineer. There was no like pressure. They were just like, you know, like if I made my own sandwich, they were impressed. You know what I mean? Like,
I love a low bar.
There was a low bar. And yeah.
And here you are. Perth, Comedy Lounge. It paid off.
I'm living from comedy, bro.
That's awesome,
so
man.
Even though there was no external aims when I started, I've managed to get myself enough security from comedy that I can do it full time. So I'm very grateful.
Have your parents been to a show over the years now? Have you invited them to a show?
They've been to two.
To two?
Yeah.
Wow, just two?
Yeah.
Since 2007. These must have been pretty important shows. What were these shows?
Yeah, like I said, there's a bit of emotional arrested development in my family, dude. So, yeah.
Was there any shows in particular? Was it like your first solo or fringe show or anything like that?
Dude, no way.
No
way.
Was a showcase? You're doing 5.
Oh, I think when I was maybe 2 years ago, I was doing the Sydney Comedy Festival roadshow thing, and it came to my hometown, a place called Redcliffe in Brisbane, and that's when they came and saw me.
Yeah, wicked, man.
Yeah.
Now, in 2018, because you just alluded to some of your solo shows, you had a show, Blaze Against the Machine, in 2018.
Yeah.
That was a show that was like themed around addiction. What?
Well, actually, I started off trying to write a show about, the war on drugs is dumb, man. And then I started like reading about it. And it's like, oh no, addiction's horrible, right? And so it changed the scope of the point of the show.
Wow, it's like a... It just totally changed your perspective on it and your writing style.
Yeah, and I think that's like a common thing. Like people think they have an aim if they're doing like a creative project, but if they start doing it, they realize it takes a different direction as they develop their point of view on it and learn more. Because
you seem pretty like passionate about like activism and a lot of causes and stuff like that. And
I was back in the day.
You're not too much anymore?
I mean, I'm interested... At the moment, the thing that I think I'm a lot more... So back in the day, I actually dropped out of stand-up and I became a left-wing extremist. And I like to think that I was uncool before it was uncool. And I got out of that right as the woke wave was happening.
Oh, wow.
So I was like living in squats in this anarchist subculture from like 2000 and maybe the end of 12 to about 2016. And I was like doing stand-up just a bit casually, but I'll do it at these like fundraisers and would have like these Aboriginal hip-hop artists in these like squats with like punk bands and stand-up comedy. And I was living this sort of activist lifestyle, and it was nonsense. And then, I very quickly realized that, I guess people get lost in having the right opinion. I'm sure everyone sort of maybe come to terms or is coming to terms with, like having the right view on Israel and Palestine doesn't mean you're able to relate to people in a emotionally stable and consistent way, and that a lot of the good we can do in the world or for ourselves is far more in your direct interactions with people one-on-one, and your moral impact on the world is far more significant there than screaming into the void on social media about some big macro political problem that you can't really relate to, that you're probably fucking wrong about anyway.
That's super profound. And I mean, you've lived it. You spend the 4 years there sort of in the trenches, so to speak, and you come out and you've realized...
then I got out of it, and then all the comedians were fucking woke. And I'm like, oh, you fucking kidding me? I didn't get to benefit from... I fucked my career for this, and now I'm fucking my career because I no longer believe in this.
Yes, the worst of both worlds.
Yeah, but in some ways, probably the best of both worlds.
Totally. What a journey, man. And how did that influence your stand-up? I mean, in that time when you were sort of in that bubble, so to speak, and you're writing from that point of view, when you come out of it and you've sort of been disillusioned and sort of, I guess, more educated in what you think is
Well,
more morally
the addiction
correct.
show was about like self-control and impulse control, but still very much caught in like seeing yourself as like your external behavior. So being like maybe, so some people might be very intensely, like a lot of comedians have a strong inner critic. I'm sure you've seen people kill on stage and then they come off and I fucking bombed, mate, I'm going to kill myself, right? So like it's never good enough. So very strong inner critic. And I was trying to still, and that's probably what got me into this stupid activism shit. But I think I was still kind of like, oh, I need to stop smoking weed. I need to be blah, 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 be better. And then the show I did after that was about cognitive biases. So there's certain ways that our brains get distorted. And like, for example, like an example would be the availability bias. So things that maybe negative stand out more. So people can very easily go, oh, look how evil and corrupt Australia is. Look at the bad thing we did over here and the greed. And it's like, well, okay, yep, that's valid. But can you contrast against that, against the fact that more money is spent on healthcare at the taxpayer's expense than the military? And there's an endless fucking army of people working 24/7, often unpaid overtime, to try to save people constantly, and that's an endless war. And how can our society be that bad if that's happening? But so learning the way that maybe certain things that might distort people's worldviews might actually be some sort of like glitch in the way that our brains process information, and then becoming aware of it. So I did a show about that, but now I'm at the point where my current show, if this is interesting to anyone, is called Swipe Left for Drama, about how childhood upsets causes romantic regrets. So the way that, people might misperceive other people's behaviors as threats and not realize that they're seeing it through that lens, and then react to it in a way that actually causes the thing that the defensive reaction was trying to prevent in the first place. So I'll give you a tangible example. I was dating a girl, I'm friends with her now, but for about 6 months, and she once said to me, oh, I think we should spend more quality time together. And I got really defensive. I'm like, but what do you mean? I'm fucking and kind of shut her down. But I interpret her saying that as like a criticism, like as a rejection, that I'm bad, and that I felt shame, and then I got defensive, not realizing that she was actually expressing a desire for wanting to be closer, and maybe not articulating it perfectly, but pretty well. And that my amygdala, so the unconscious part of the brain that looks out for threats, like the part of a brain that if there was a tiger there would be like, fuck, danger.
Like there it is, the tiger that wants to hang out with me more.
But it's not a tiger, it's your girlfriend.
Sure.
Right? And so, so it's a show all about that. And so I guess that's another, trying to go from the worldview stuff to a kind of layer here of like, and then another layer trying to go deeper into the psyche to, so less on like Twitter going, this is wrong, but just...
And more internal, introspective.
Yeah, and not needing to moralize as much, but just trying to understand and not thinking of good and bad, but what's effective and what's real.
It's fascinating, man. I mean, the insight into your mind and sort of the journey of sort of self-betterment and reflecting that in your stand-up shows. How do you find joining humor with these sort of like, I guess, quote-unquote, deeper subjects that are a little bit more
it was
convoluted?
Extremely fun.
Well,
I guess it's that thing where it's like...
that's the challenge, right?
In order to like feel engaged, you probably want to challenge yourself, right? So I'm sure you said you've been doing stand-up for 3 years. So I'm sure there's probably certain jokes you probably could make that might get a bit of a laugh, but you don't find that particularly interesting or challenging. And the stuff you're probably, I assume, thinking about now might be more, in quotes, sophisticated. And you're doing that because you're probably wanting to better yourself, but also challenge yourself, right? So I guess we all have different interests. And I guess for me, this is what's interesting me. So I find it rewarding, and I'm finding I'm getting very good results on stage.
That's great, man. And your
cheers.
Swipe Left for Drama is your Fringe show that you're running this year. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Awesome. Where can people find tickets to that? Is that just on Fringe
Just
World?
on the Fringe World, Shayne Hunter, Shayne, or just type in Swipe Left for Drama,
Yep.
Comedy Fringe.
And you're doing the Perth Fringe. Whereabouts are you going to be throughout the Fringe run? Are you doing multiple cities?
Yeah, I'm doing Adelaide. Oh, you mean the suburbs? Yeah, I'm doing Fremantle. I'm doing Brisbane. I'm doing the CBD, and I'm doing one in Guildford.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, great, man. Awesome. So Shayne Hunter Comedy, people can look you up there. Shayne, before I wrap up, though, man, because it's been an interesting insight into your mind, I want to know if you could go back to 16-year-old Shayne and give any advice for life, what would it be?
I would say read every book you can on emotional intelligence.
Emotional intelligence, brush up on that. And that's just not only for life, that's for stand-up, it's for everything. It's going to make things a lot easier.
Well, it's the conduit in which everything flows through, right? So, like, in order to communicate with others, you have to be as aware of yourself as possible. You have to be able to emotionally regulate. You have to understand maybe what kind of traumas or ways that adverse experiences, usually in childhood, might affect the way that you interpret or react, or what kind of, you've heard of like people who are people pleasers, go, oh, sorry, oh, is everything okay? Like, that's a threat thing. They're not like a nice person, in quotes. They're fucking terrified. Yeah. Sure. And so your ability to regulate and understand your own feelings and get your own needs in life, your ability to relate to friends, your ability to be successful at work, your ability to maybe whatever kind of art you're doing, that's all directly impacted from that. That's the conduit in which everything is coming in and out of you. And why wouldn't you try to like create that highway to make that as organized and as efficient as possible?
I love it, man. I hope society moves in a direction that we're all doing that stuff, because it's going to be a lot better.
I think it is.
Yeah, awesome, man. Well, Shayne Hunter Comedy, SHAYN Hunter Comedy. Look him up for his new show, Swipe Left for Drama. Thank you, Shayne.
No worries. Thank you.